Nitrate power. You're in the dog zone for an hour. Come on. You know the number. 1-900 hot dog. 1-900 hot dog. 1-900 hot dog. Yeah, 9,000.
Welcome to the DOGGZZONE 9000, the official podcast of 1-900-HOT-DOG, America's last comedy website. If you like this podcast or our other podcast, Big Feats with Jason Pargin, come support us at patreon.com/1900hotdog. You will get literally hundreds of bonus episodes. Plus, just as like a fun bonus, an entire daily updating comedy website, bringing you in-depth write-ups by the best comedians left alive right now about media that should never have existed. You can watch the animated version of this podcast or the actual video podcast of Big Feats on our YouTube channel at 1-900-HOT-DOG. Go to 1900hotdog.com and click shop for our store, or you could do none of that, you could do none of it, and I legally can't stop you from listening to the rest of this ad-free podcast, but I'll be really mad. I'll be really mad about it. I'm Republican RoboCop Robert Brockway, and with me is the Democrat version of Ed 209, Seanbaby.
I'm honored to be here as the Democrat Ed 209. I think I'm going to go by that for the rest of my life. I think that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
And our guest, the man I specifically picked because of all the people on Earth, he's the one who would hate this podcast the most. It's Brendan McGinley.
Hello, fellow patriots. This is Liberty Agent Brendan McGinley, broadcasting from an undisclosed location outside of the New York City metropolitan area.
And I'm not kidding when I say I picked you because you would hate this the most. Like, when I was like, I've had this forever, and I'm looking at this going, like, nobody's gonna do this with me. Like, who's gonna do this with me? Brendan would hate this the most, so I figured it had to be you. It had to be you to do this.
We have pushed this podcast 3 times. This is our 4th attempt.
Nobody wants to talk about it.
And when you invited me, what was my immediate response?
Yes, this has to be me. It's exactly the type of weird you are.
It's all of my love and all of my hate in one place.
Yeah.
It was built for you. This is your hole. It's your hole. It's your shape. However, I will say I picked the subject for this podcast on like January 17th, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it'll be fine. And it's not fine.
It's not.
It turns out this was a bad idea, and I should have known, but we're going to do it anyway. But before we do, Brendan, where can people find more from you?
I'm on the Blue Sky if you manage to spell my name, and I have a website that is also my name.
And you're not going to spell it. You're going to make him run that gauntlet?
Honestly, I don't care. Like, you don't have to follow me. I'm going to go to my grave with 40 followers and be happy with it.
It's early in the Sean Hannity comic book podcast to be this nihilistic, I think.
But it's correct. It feels right.
Yeah, no, it's the attitude we'll
right.
get to. I'm just surprised we started this early.
Today we're talking about a comic book called Liberality for All. This was a 3-issue comic book from 2006, written by a guy named Mike Mackey and illustrated by a guy named Donnie Lin. 8 issues of this were planned, but like all the best comics, it was canceled after 3. It was published by a place called ACC Studio, which was just Mike Mackey. It was his vanity studio. So just like my favorite comic book maniac, Craig Stormon, he was his own worst enemy. We got 3 issues into this, and he's like, "Fuck this guy." Me?
You're canceled.
This is where I also cop to having done 3 issues of a Vanity Press comic and then completely vanishing. So I can't judge.
I was going to ask if your comic book was about Sean Hannity starting a Robo Underground radio resistance.
No, but I'll tell you real quick. My comic did have something called Planet of the Liberals, which was a Planet of the Apes spoof that had this premise where the liberals, George Bush woke up in a world according to the liberal vision and proceeded to Heston his way through. And the other thing I've been like, I'm not going to do it now because it's going to sound dumb now that I've read this comic, was like a cyberpunk Akira punk rock version of this, but it was like, like a Give Me Liberty kind of like just punks versus Trump, and that's what this comic is, and I cannot follow in this path.
Yeah.
Well, it's the opposite of it's Trump versus punks is what this is.
I feel like it's the same shit. I don't want to be the evil twin to the thing that is already evil. So
yeah, It's good somebody had this idea for you so that you don't have to have it anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
We are. These aren't jokes. I'll read the synopsis of what this comic book is about. It is 2021. Tomorrow is the 20th anniversary of 9/11. America is under oppression by ultra-liberal extremists who have surrendered governing authority to the United Nations. Hate speech legislation called the Coulter Laws have forced vocal conservatives underground. A group of biomechanically enhanced conservatives led by Sean Hannity.
Can I pause you there? I love that even in their wildest fantasies, like their post-apocalyptic sci-fi fantasies, like there's still just a bunch of people doing hate speech. Like they're like can't even disguise it there. They're like, oh, they make a bunch of rules about hate speech, and all of a sudden the good guys have to stop doing hate speech.
You did interrupt my favorite sentence. Maybe on Earth, a group of biomechanically enhanced conservatives led by Sean Hannity, G. Gordon Liddy, Oliver North, and a young man born on September 11th, 2001, set out to thwart Ambassador Osama bin Laden's plans to nuke New York City.
Yeah, I fucked up by interrupting that. It's beautiful. It's glorious.
The avatar of 9/11 is the reader insert character that we're adding to the super team.
And possibly also the reincarnation of Ronald Reagan.
Yes,
yes.
That was
we'll get
really
to
heavily
that
implied.
real soon. Real soon. So starting with, I hope we get through all three, but starting with issue number 1 of Liberality for All, I want to say up top, if you have this comic book, if you're looking at it, there are variant covers for this. And the first one, you're looking at them in the file. The first one for issue 1, the cover is by Larry Elmore, who is actually a quite accomplished artist, an actual you have to pay this guy kind of artist. And the second is by the actual illustrator of the comic, Donnie Lin. And you could see a vast gulf of quality between those two. Like you look at that first cover, you're like, oh, this is so you made a real comic book, and then the second cover is like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't.
I know what this is.
This is 3 issues from a vanity press.
Yeah.
So the comic opens in October 2000. A man doing what looks like 140 miles an hour down a Manhattan street is listening to I guess it's still This Reality's Rush Limbaugh show featuring Sean Hannity's first appearance.
I do want to comment on that. I think it's weird to start a comic book with Rush Limbaugh show as like the first line, but I think it also puts it in a place in time because we just forgot about him the second he died. Like, he is not an influence. He's not like a thinker who resonates with us. He was just like the dumb fuck bigot at the time. And as soon as he died, like 50 people tried to fill that slot and he was never mentioned again. And so I think that's like kind of one of my favorite things about when he died is that he was just forgotten, even by the people who like listen to him every single day. It's just done.
He did vanish. You're right. I haven't heard anybody mention him, but in this comic book, he is one of the triggers for the entire universe changing. Because the guy speeding down Manhattan at an unrealistic speed swerves to miss one of Manhattan's famous feral dogs. And he crashes and dies, presumably dies. And that's what kicks this whole thing off. But you won't know that unless you look really closely and realize that car has a Nader 2000 bumper sticker.
Oh, shit, you're right.
And that's right. It was Ralph Nader, Manhattan Speed Demon. He died saving a feral dog and thereby doomed humanity. Is what that.
Oh, is that actually supposed to be Nader himself?
That's supposed to be Ralph Nader, and you were supposed to pick up on that because he was going to vote for Ralph Nader.
I thought he was a swing voter that was like the one guy in... Okay.
If the election hinged on one vote, sure.
That's how many votes Ralph Nader got, right? He got the one vote.
I don't expect reason from this book, and
no, you're right.
Why was he listening to Rush Limbaugh? Like, if you're going to say, hey, this character is Ralph Nader, don't have him listening to Rush Limbaugh. I feel like it's that simple. That's a good starting point, at least.
Okay, so I did have to cheat. I confirmed this in research, but that's what they were trying to say. And they're so bad at storytelling that the only visual indicator you have for what happened is that you were supposed to assume by the presence of the Ralph Nader bumper sticker that this was Ralph Nader, because who else is going to vote for him?
Amazing.
And honestly, big missed opportunity for... I'm going to give satire notes on this. Could have had him not wearing a seatbelt and gone right through the windshield.
Oh, see? You could do so much.
Here's what I would have had it. He would have had a methane powered car, like some sort of a stupid liberal car. And that's why it like went up in flames. Like how fucking hard is this? Conservative writers of 2006.
I also famously, he hates feral dogs, so he would not have swerved.
That's true. Yes, famously.
Killing a dog is a very Republican move, so that was sort of a signal to us that this was a...
Right. You're right. That's probably what they were getting at.
In 2006, it was totally the opposite.
The RFK Jr. would have just eaten it. He would have smashed it, eaten it right out of his grill. The engine cooks it.
Probably at his confirmation hearing.
So the narrator comes in and he's musing this whole time, like, what horrific event led to this terrible future we now live in? And he says, when 9/11 were numbers we used to use when there was a crisis, but now they're numbers we wish we could forget. Famously, the numbers that we're supposed to forget, 9/11.
It's God damn it. It's like the number of ways this comic fails is just so limitless. And that's just a quick example. I have a quick question. You did some research. Did Sean Hannity like have anything to do with this? Or is this just like a Fox News viewer who made a comic book?
Well, I'll tell you what. We've got 3 comic books to get through and we're going pretty slow. So I'll save all the research for the bonus episode.
Okay, perfect.
Here's a little teaser. Sean Hannity had nothing to do with like the creation of this, but he did get in on it, and we'll get to that.
Amazing.
Yeah. So it's revealed that our narrator this whole time was a man named Reagan McGee. Reagan McGee, and he was born on September 11th, 2001. The avatar of 9/11 is named Reagan McGee.
17,045 Reagan McGees were born on that day. God.
That
makes me proud to be an American.
Ultra popular name Reagan McGee came from.
So we could actually get a Reagan McGee blood sport.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yes.
1/5 of one, I guess. I think those numbers are pretty low.
Versus McGee.
There's only one can be the avatar of 9/11.
Only got to make that one nameplate. That's saved Bloodsport set designers so much time.
So we jump ahead to 2002, where a very handsome Sean Hannity, the kind of handsome Sean Hannity that has never existed in any timeline, complains about the Al Gore regime being too soft on terrorists. So like Nader's what flipped the election. Al Gore won. This is the evil future that the Al Gore regime would have brought if they had won.
You're skipping past a lot of sarcasm. Like a lot of the writing is sarcastic. Some of it's in Rush Limbaugh's voice, but it's still kind of got that, oh, we're so evil. Ha ha ha. Look at us. How racist. It's like the same thing that you see today where it's plainly bad. It's plainly, cruel and racist, but it's like, just a touch of irony. Just so you're like, oh, but we're kidding, right?
Yeah.
That tone is all over this.
Because it was a different temperature that I kind of forgot about. And I was rereading. I was like, oh, right. This was when they were sort of at the stab in the back mythos stage where they were just, it was like pre-Tea Party, pre-Q, pre-MAGA. They were just very much like, hey, are we actually racist, or are we just trying to get a rise out of you libs with how racist this is how you think of us?
Right. Yeah,
and then they decided, no, we'll just, we are, and we'll embrace that.
I also want to say that like this world that they've created is kind of just the ordinary world. Like their darkest fear is never a fiery apocalypse. It's just like Chelsea Clinton running as a moderate. And so when there's no robots roaming the street and killing people. It's like, here's what we got to fight against. Hate speech laws and policies that favor non-whites. It's like, it's not exactly like a war-torn wasteland.
No, it's the exact same world, except in just 5 years, they've managed to develop nanotech and keep sea levels down. So
yeah.
So much better. It's better for some people, because in this world, it's revealed that Osama bin Laden is only negotiating for peace so that they can buy time to kill America's bravest conservatives, like Sean Hannity. That's really with you. That's the plot. Is they're we have to kill time on this whole global peace treaty so that we can get Sean Hannity. That guy's the one making the big difference.
I feel like Alex Jones writes this comic book 17 times a day. Like, just like as he babbles, like he writes this exact plot.
It was ahead of the curve a little bit for him. So we jump ahead again to 19 years later in 2021, where Osama bin Laden has a nuclear bomb. And in America, there's a mysterious mustachioed enigma that very gruffly whispers, "He just arrived at the UN, we're good to go." And we're like, oh, who is this? Who is this Superman here? Oh, I wonder who that's gonna be. Now brace up. You don't know it yet, but just remember how cool this guy is. And just bookmark in your head how fucking cool he's about to be. So by he's here, he means Osama bin Laden, because the US has now turned over rule to the United Nations, and Osama bin Laden is the ambassador of Afghanistan and hailed as a hero. And let me get to his speech. I do want to read his speech. That's on page 12. I would like to take a moment to personally thank the UN Secretary General Jacques Chirac for his part in the peace negotiations. Also, I would like to thank Vice President Moore and President Clinton, or as I have come to know them, Michael and Madam Chelsea. If it were not for American leaders like them, I would not be here today. On behalf of the Islamic fundamentalist state, I plan to publicly apologize for the misunderstanding of September 11th, 2001. This apology will be at the upcoming 20th anniversary remembrance at the Unity Tower. So, see if you can figure out where to apply sarcastic quote marks throughout that whole... That really distills the tone of this whole thing for me. Is like, yeah, who's the worst person to be there? I know, it's Michael Moore. He's vice president. Oh, and fucking, who's the worst? Chelsea Clinton. She's president. Oh.
I also like that the political correctness that he's trying to mock is like, I don't think you've like amped it up if you're like, yeah, Osama bin Laden's a good guy. Like, I think you skipped a few steps between like putting things in a nice way and hailing a mass murdering terrorist as a good guy. I don't know. It's not philosophically consistent is the only problem I have with this. Otherwise, great point. Fun story.
Yeah, I don't know if this book knows that straw man arguments that you invent don't get rebutted by other things that you also made up. Like,
right.
It's like war, blood of millions grease the war machines, but to have peace, they would traffic with our enemies. And it's like, well, yeah, no. Like, if you're going to make up a type of liberal and then critique that point of that liberal using a thing that you also made up, you might just be chasing your own tail.
I get it.
And you remember how all the liberals just loved Osama bin Laden after 9/11.
For sure. There was a lot of pro 9/11 people. Absolutely. We all came together to argue about whether or not it was great.
So outside, some brave teen gangs called the Patriots and the Liberty Bells deface a UN propaganda poster. A frighteningly multicultural police force made up of just all kinds of Europeans arrests them. And one of them says, "Stop that, you criminal," but spelled all German. And the Liberty Bell says, "Let go of me, you blue pig." The radio tells us Matt Drudge is currently the FBI's #1 most wanted.
Amazing.
Oh, it's really good.
Just the little references. Everything has a little squawking box. Every panel has a little squawking box of like, here's a guy from Fox News or here's a guy from MSNBC who blah, blah, blah. It's just, whoever did this has been so poisoned by their TV that like, it's hard to even know what they're trying to say.
And this was in 2006.
Yeah.
Like no Republican politicians come into this. It's strictly war on the voices. Like a bunch of rich millionaires are the most persecuted group in America.
He calls them like they have a name they're called the vocal conservatives, and then they get a cooler name later. But yeah, this is about how hard just conservative radio talk show hosts have it, notoriously put upon people. One of the European cops says, "Forget them, we're on full alert. Hannity is hacking a broadcast in the air." You know.
Yeah, let the criminals go. We've got to get this radio pirate.
We got to get infamous hacker Sean Hannity. And he is in his high-tech pirate radio van. He's all red lit and sexily stubbled. And he starts his broadcast saying, "Many things have changed in the past 2 decades, but one thing that's the same is I am still here, speaking for those who can't. And that's the panel. We see he has an eye patch and a bionic arm.
Sean Hannity is Cable.
It goes for like 2 pages, and all he says is how great he is. Like, he hacked into the fucking radio station. He's like, Sean Hannity's here, coming at you straight with the good news. You're like, okay, why did you do it, though? Because I'm the best, and I'll tell you the straight shooter shit. Okay. Just nothing of substance.
He's got to wank himself off with his bionic commando arm. Yes.
It's also, I think, points to how poisoned this guy's brain is. That he's like, man, if you had superpowers and didn't give a fuck, you know what you'd do? You would do like Fox News from a van.
This was my honest reaction, was like, if he masturbates with that arm, is it still masturbation, or is this like the sort of sex act that normally gets banned by Republican lawmakers?
Yeah, I guess you got a Ship of Theseus thing here. But like a wank Ship of Theseus.
A wank of Theseus. That's what they call it.
A wank of Theseus, of course. Classic philosophical problem. Tells us that the Coulter laws prohibit all Republican speech, and lib is now a protected slur.
This was... lib is a protected slur. This is Ann Coulter, right? Like, who else would it be?
Yeah.
They never explain it. So in this fiction, Ann Coulter said something so awful that they like made laws against saying awful things. Is that like what I'm led to believe?
I guess. Like that. Yeah. Or specifically to silence her.
There's also enough reality that even in their private lair, all the surviving liberty fighters are talking about how she's a little much for even them. How she's a little too like, she probably did say something. She probably I think she said like we should invade all the other countries and kill their leaders and force them to convert to Christianity. So that's probably the trigger in this timeline.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that some things don't change, even if in like an evil alternate Al Gore reality, they still don't like women. It's nice to see that just consistency is right there. So Hannity explains that Iraq, Iran, and the Unified Republic of Korea all have nukes now. Plus, they took God out of the Pledge of Allegiance and off of our money. That's like same sentence. It's like
yeah, equally terrible.
And that's punctuated with art of a heartbroken soldier staring at a giant penny that reads "In peace we trust" and weeping over a shredded American flag. The penny is what broke him, though. The giant penny. "In peace we trust, America." Reagan McGee makes his first actual appearance. He's been our narrator this whole time. He calls into the Hannity show asking how he can be part of the elite group known as FOIL, Freedom of Information League, the superhero team made up of vocal underground conservatives.
Am I crazy, or is Sean Hannity trying to fuck this guy? Because this guy calls in and Hannity's like, "Ooh, your voice is nice. Do you do radio, handsome voiced man?"
Well, actually, yes, sir, I have.
Yeah, and you got the body for it too, huh?
Yeah.
You gotta use that body to take down the Al Gore regime for me.
My producer and I would like to invite you back over to the studio.
Technically, my arm isn't human. It's not sex if it does stuff to you. Right?
Jamie, let's cut 40 minutes of that.
Hannity says he's already doing his part just by being a member of a liberty group like the Patriots gang, so he's one of these roving gangs of Republican youths. The cops raid Hannity's van, but it turns out it's being remote controlled by Hannity, who is still in the van.
Always a step ahead.
It buys him, in the comic book, it buys him one panel. It buys him the equivalent of 4 seconds where they raid the van and they're like, this is being remote controlled. And then they look to the back and you're thinking like, oh, it's going to be a trap. And they bust open the door and Hannity's right there. They're just like, what?
He's in a different room of this van.
It never did anything.
Did you think it was really Quaid? It is.
So Sean radios to make sure his homies, Oscar and G-Man, are ready. Wait till you find out who they are. And then he greets the cops with a cheery, "Hi!" And then does electric karate from his bionic arm.
Fucking great catchphrase. Great
and
power
his
set.
parting catchphrase? Did anybody write that one down?
It's crunch time?
Bye!
Oh, you're right. Bye. Oh my God. He says hi, does the electric thing, and then says bye. There is no dialogue between that.
Nope.
Holy shit.
I guess that's supposed to be It's supposed to be cute. And then he does say it's crunch time, which he calls back to. So I guess that's his real catchphrase. It's crunch time. I don't remember. Is that something Sean Hannity himself said?
I doubt it.
It seems vague. It seems light.
I think his catchphrase is "It's jerkin' time," and then he pulls out his bionic glove.
So we cut to a rad motorcycle tearing down the street just as Cyber Hannity rips open the roof of his pirate radio van. The bike takes like a bitchin' jump just as Cyber Hannity charges his EMP pulse to disable all the cops' pussy-ass electric guns. And then the motorcycle screeches to a halt atop the van, revealing the writer, the enigmatic character we saw earlier, the coolest guy in the fucking world, G-Man, G. Gordon Liddy.
I'd forgotten who this was. I had to look him up.
So much. Oh, I know who he was because he went to my college. And every year when they would ask me for a donation, I would send them like $20, whatever, and be like, please put this towards the G. Gordon Liddy Memorial Broom Closet. And then one year, the president of the university wrote back to me and said, unfortunately, we can't honor your request because Mr. Liddy gave more than you did.
Damn.
Capitalism. We do it. We do it, man. So
That's fucked up. That's the last $20 you get from me, college.
It was, in fact.
you could have just let it go. You could have just not engaged with that joke and made $20. You got to him. The coolest guy in the world. This is this comic book's Wolverine. Like he's basically, he's not the main character, but he steals the show. It's G. Gordon Liddy on his vintage Harley. He's seemingly unkillable. He knows all the karate. He screeches to a halt on top of Hannity's van, and he lectures the cops about calling it a gun. He like takes one of the guns and he's like, you don't even have the basic respect to call it a weapon or a rifle.
This is some country nerd shit. Like
Liddy takes over this scene. It is. You are completely right. How fundamentally he is Wolverine, which makes Sean Hannity the Cyclops in his own title.
Yes, that's exactly the dynamic, which is very funny. G. Gordon Liddy, fuck maniac out here, just riding around on his hog, stealing guns from cops.
it's such a little boy's idea of cool daddy. Like he's just he likes guns and vintage Harleys and vintage Harleys.
I'll tell you how right Brendan's dynamic is. When it comes time to escape, Cyber Hannity hops on the back of G. Gordon Liddy's bike. It had to hurt. It had to hurt reading in the Wank comic about how rad you are, and then seeing you jump on the back seat there.
G. Gordon Liddy's jacket says, "If you're reading this, the old lady fell off."
So Cyber Hannity triggers the EMP to disable the electric rifles, and then they just tear ass down the street, pursued by one of the UN Nazi cops who's using a Luger, but G. Gordon Liddy has been counting the shots and he knows there's only one left. That's how cool G. Gordon Liddy is. I just really want to hit that hard.
This book assaults a lot of cops for a pro law and order.
Yeah,
but these are European cops.
Yeah, they're UN cops.
Practically women. Luckily, Hannity has one last supercharge in his electric arm. It doesn't disable G. Gordon Liddy's superbike specifically because we say, this is a 19 Harley and there's no stupid computer-controlled electronic crap on her.
Genius. It's coal-powered.
I know a few biker guys that think like that, but a lot of them are just mad that you yelled at them for having the giant speakers on their Harleys. Because like they love to do that. Like you did not really ingratiate yourself with anybody.
Maybe you should get a cybernetic arm and shut down those electronic speakers.
That's how you combat that. They do drop a laptop computer, which is, even in this far-flung year, is the exact size and shape of a 1990s laptop. I just like that there's no imagination for a lot of this. Like, some of it's like, we're going to have nanotechnology in 5 years, and there's going to be electric rifles, and then computers, exactly the same. I'm not even going to think about that one.
It's kind of got that Tom Ryman thing about all the sci-fi movies they made before The Matrix in the late 90s, where they all they literally day after tomorrowed it, but they still wanted to have like the 22nd century technology.
Yeah, it's like having like how everybody reads a newspaper in the far-flung future, and you're like, nope, that was the first thing to go. Got that one wrong. So They drop it, or maybe it's a ploy to manipulate the sheepish Nazi police of the UN. Either way, they escape. Cyber Hannity and G. Gordon Liddy escape to their ship, which is a fully bionic fish called the Manatee.
This was, I think, a step too far. Where I was like, I get it. And then here comes the fucking Nautilus. I'm like, wait a second. Whoa.
I don't know how you get into this and not realize you're the supervillain.
Yeah.
This is the most evil-looking subterranean craft, or subaquatic craft.
And yet it's called the Manatee.
Manatee.
Notoriously the very slow thing that floats there and gets chopped up by boat propellers.
Despite plainly being a big mouth bass.
So then they reveal the real purpose of their mission, which was to X-ray scan the UN, where they discovered bin Laden's diplomatic briefcase is just a suitcase nuke set to detonate on 9/11. Bum. That's the end of issue 1.
Yeah, it just ends with them, like, assembling the team. The crack team of, like, Hacker Nerd, G. Gordon Liddy, a dog. The dog's name is Marty. Is that a reference to something? I was like, this must be something. I'm probably a German general.
Just, if it is, it's another, like, forgotten to time right-wing personality that just vanished from my memory.
Yeah,
like
that must be it.
Everything here is a reference that you're supposed to get to the culture of Republican radio hosts in 2006. But yeah, a lot of it just did not stick around. I say it's the end. It's not the end. There is a letters section, which is mostly Mike Mackey, the author and owner of the press, ranting about how his grift isn't working as well as he hoped. And then a bunch of hate mail to him before issue. He had to get that before issue 1. Not sure how that happened.
It's unrelated to this comic. A lot of people hate me. Here's one for my HOA. Here's one for my ex-wife.
And the pressure gets to it. Like, he's kind of cool about it in the first one. He's kind of got a sense of humor about it. And then we'll see his response reflexes to these criticisms really run out of fuse.
Well, like all of these guys, it's a grift. He's only half sincere, and he's really trying to just get one over on one of the stupider ones, and it's not working. And like all of them, he just loses his fucking mind when the grift doesn't work. And then I guess radicalizes himself for real. Let's get into issue 2. It opens back in the good old days of 2006 when Sean Hannity hadn't become a bionic commando yet and was still allowed on the air. His war correspondent, Oliver North, says the U.S. is getting slaughtered by elite North Korean forces.
Yeah.
Who are cutely calling the mass murder of South Koreans the Soul Harvest.
Okay, so the problem here is that they want ammo, but the UN says no, and they've given all their power to the UN because I guess like America willingly surrendered all of their power to the world government, and then the world government, when there is a conflict, they're like, no, we don't care about that. That's the premise.
Yes, that's the evil regime.
Okay.
Maybe we'd still have weapons if Ollie North hadn't sold them to our enemies.
Yeah, that's true. This might be on you, Ollie.
So, G. Gordon Liddy appears on the show, and basically immediately just to plug his book, and then Hannity does it too. So even in this fiction, even after the Al Gore regime has taken over the earth, they're still just grifters trying to plug their books.
Amazing.
I thought that was an amazing admission of like, yeah, of course they would have to plug their books.
It really is just like 1/3 of an imagination. Like, this is a world created by someone with just 1/3 of an imagination.
Just little touches where it's like, oh, he has enough voice that he could almost have actually. I would have loved to have listened. This is why I'm so upset. I would have loved to have been like, I disagree with everything, but I can respect the satire of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of nods its chin at it, and then it just keeps on going back to triggering dem libs.
So the McGee family is watching this whole broadcast, and Reagan's firefighter father, of course, reveals that he's being deployed to the new Korean War. And at school, young Reagan McGee accidentally says God during the Pledge of Allegiance, like out of habit. And he is forced to stare at the flag as punishment.
This never happened to you?
Yeah, no, that never happened to me. He does see that the flag is respectfully attended to by young hooligans who deface the UN flag only, and that's how he gets radicalized, is seeing these young. They're really young too. They're like 9-year-old gang members. So
carefully holding the flag.
He pledges to be a patriot when he grows up, but like only we, the reader, know he's talking about being a gang member.
Right.
The Patriots. and not just like a patriot. Because his mom's like, yeah, that's great, be a patriot. And he's like, no, I mean the gang.
In his defense, the people calling themselves patriots did kind of grow up to become a gang that did storm the Capitol. So.
Yeah, no, that's real.
Yeah.
Just like how when I say Merry Christmas, I actually mean white power. I mean, like, let's be serious.
At the Sean Hannity book signing, Reagan and a bunch of other cool little kids and families are there, including one weirdly specifically Muslim family. So, he's not one of the bad ones. There's a Muslim here, everybody.
Can't be racist if you have a Muslim fan.
Hold on, let me look up tokenism. No, guys, it looks like he's still racist.
I think that's a crypto thing.
Yes.
The father goes, the Muslim father, he goes to get another Hannity book from his car because he has multiple Hannity books he wants signed to his child, specifically.
Yes.
Sign it for my baby so he can grow up reading your books.
For my Muslim baby.
I would like him to be ostracized from all walks of life.
What a complicated way to say fuck you to a baby. Get a bunch of Sean Hannity books signed for it.
When you're old enough to understand, then you'll start resenting me. The wife explains that the father is a biomechanical engineer researching nanotechnology and cellular bionics. So, that's all some pretty advanced, gobbledygook. And Hannity says, oh, so he's like Oscar Goldman from The Bionic Man.
And she's like, the fuck are you talking about?
And that's supposed to be a compliment because we flash forward and reveal that their tech genius that we already met, Oscar, is this Muslim man many years later. So,
right.
So Oscar, their tech genius, is the only good Muslim, and they've renamed him after, I guess, a Jewish man from an American TV show? They just took his name. They're like, that's too hard to say. You're Oscar.
If you're one of the good ones, you get baptized with a whiter name in the blood of your wife and child. You have to leave your whole world behind, your whole identity.
Yeah. And he does, because a Muslim suicide bomber bombs the Sean Hannity book signing. Hannity, of course, throws himself atop the Muslim mother and baby as the explosion happens, just like he would in real life. We all know it.
To no good, right? It doesn't help.
No, they still die.
They just die with Sean Hannity on them.
And he's so handsomely, generically anime, you would never know this is Sean Hannity. It cracks me up.
I ran into the same problem trying to write jokes for this because there's nothing there to Sean Hannity. Even this book about how awesome he is can't find anything to define him or stick to him. He's like a crudely carved totem of smugness. That's all he is.
Yeah,
he's just a haircut and one of a personality.
I want to know what the fuck G. Gordon Liddy did to become the Wolverine of this comic book. Because he very much is. We cut to his scene. G. Gordon Liddy is exiting a taxi and two Muslims attack him with scimitars. And he says, didn't you ever hear the joke about the Islamofascist that brought a sword to a gunfight? Here's the punchline. And then he shoots them.
Point blank.
And then he says, you two just cost me 4 bullets at 25 cents each. I want my $1 back.
So far from something cool. It's on the other side of the ocean from cool. He killed 2 men and wants $1.
I want my $1 back.
Fucking crazy.
Was that a G. Gordon Liddy catchphrase at the time? What? It's so out of place that I'm like, is that a reference? But I can't find what it's a reference to. Is it a misquote from RoboCop? Because what? It's not cool.
Yeah,
But it's clear the comic thinks it's super cool. G. Gordon Liddy takes one of the young men captive and brings him into their own warehouse where they were waiting for a delivery from a butcher, I guess, or maybe he calls in the delivery from his special midnight butcher. G. Gordon Liddy breaks into the shipments he finds there, and he finds a mint-condition 1930 Harley, sealed new in crate for 75 years, and he says, only to be shipped to Saudi Arabia, trying to kill me, that I might forgive, but condemning a Harley Davidson to a life in a desert, I don't think I can tolerate that. The desert also is famously the best place for vintage vehicles.
That I didn't know. I just know they've only done 3 character beats with this character. 2 of them were Harley, and one of them is he wants $1 back from a corpse. He wants to be reimbursed for the bullets he used to kill a man.
He is sort of like a Charles Bronson character that never stopped. He just kept going forward.
Yeah, he continues beating this already wounded terrorist for the audacity of being near a Harley that was going to be shipped somewhere he didn't like. And he says, "Do you know what sand does to an antique engine? Sand sticks to oil like pig's blood sticks to skin." And then the butcher bag he pulls a skinned pig out of the bag, and he threatens to duct tape it to the terrorist so that he won't get into heaven when he kills him.
I know a lot of people just gasp right now.
Yeah, the terrorist treats this like it's real, like he's a fucking, like Muslims are vampires and this is their weakness. Like he's like, no, you can't do that. Allah won't let me into heaven. Like as if it's just scientific fact that if he shows up to Allah with a fucking pig taped to him, Allah's like, no, dude.
If you're a victim of a bad enough hate crime, even God will be like, whoa, no, just go, man.
Unbelievable.
And this is my argument for when I die, caught in whatever compromising position I'm in. I'm just going to be like, hey, God, you didn't have to take me at that moment. This is like some loophole bureaucracy.
Yeah, you didn't have to take me after G. Gordon Liddy duct taped a pig to me. after who did a what? Oh, I didn't know about any of that.
You could have taken me before that 10-year crime spree. I don't know.
I was not paying attention when you died. I am sorry.
I can explain. I was just mailing a Harley to the desert, and this guy took that as, and God's like, did you just fucking say you were going to take that sweet vintage hog to the sand?
Which is honestly the real sin, apparently, of taking it somewhere where it will never be exposed to humidity or salt. Or
yeah, it's the sand doesn't get in the engine. If it does, you got problems.
I would just say, for the record, I think this is a hate crime. I think
yes.
Drawing a comic book about a guy sticking a pigskin to a Muslim and having him scream, no, Allah will not let me in heaven, I think that qualifies as a hate crime.
And Sean, it's okay, don't worry, because Brockway's going to reveal how it becomes a hate crime against humanity.
Yes, but before that, I would like to break just a little of the research seal and say that in an interview I found with Mike Mackey, he said, like, yeah, I mean, the guys, G. Gordon Liddy and Sean Hannity and Oliver North, they've all seen it. And, like, the interviewer was like, aren't you worried about being sued for, like, using a real person's likeness to do some of these things? And he says, no, why would they sue me? Like, they're doing awesome stuff. They're doing really awesome stuff. Why they would be happy. And then one of those awesome things is duct taping a pig to a terrorist corpse so that he will not get into heaven. And you were like, no, he won't sue me. He will love that.
And he was right?
I guess he was right. He didn't get sued.
Oh, and to be clear, he doesn't have any duct tape. And that's like the big reveal. He's like, yeah, here's my secret. I don't have any duct tape. And he pulls out like a fucking gigantic cyber nail gun.
Yeah, so he's gonna nail gun. And he does. It's implied, yes. This was not an empty threat. G. Gordon Liddy did nail gun a pig's corpse to a Muslim man.
Which is actually a problem for Allah, because if you're nail gunned to death, you do automatically get into heaven. It's a corollary.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he loves nails, hates pigs. Famous.
Got to go to the Allah Supreme Court.
What finally breaks him to get out the nail gun is that it's revealed that the elite assassin force sent by Osama bin Laden to kill conservative talk show radio hosts worked. And Rush Limbaugh, Bill O'Reilly, and Laura Ingraham all died to this team. I guess they didn't have cyber arms or cool motorcycles.
That's the problem. I think this is funny because even in this universe, Rush Limbaugh's just fucking unceremoniously killed and forgotten off frame.
I'm going to give it up. I got a chuckle out of that line about his death, where it was just kind of playing off of his own statements. Yeah,
gruesomely shot in the brain.
Back in the present day, we see Oscar, the Muslim man whose wife and child were killed at a Sean Hannity book signing, still looking upon that book Hannity signed for his child, which I guess is his only memento of his family.
I think the good line here would have been if he said, I knew I shouldn't have brought my Muslim family to the Sean Hannity book signing. That's the fucking line. Fucking free joke for you, 2006 bigot.
I wish Sean Hannity hadn't signed my only memento of my family. Perhaps. It does take away from it a bit. So Oscar has designed a new nanotech arm for Hannity, but warns him that the rest of him isn't bulletproof because he's no G. Gordon Liddy. So it implies very early on, G. Gordon Liddy, also bulletproof.
Also bulletproof. I want to point out there's a really funny moment here for me where he gives him the new arm. This is really standard for any kind of like James Bond or sci-fi trope where you're like, okay, here's what your thing can do. You got laser sights. You got fucking razor blades. You can shoot blah, blah, blah. Nothing. It is exactly like his old arm, except just like a little tougher. And it takes like 2 pages to explain this. And I thought this was hilarious. How bad he is at understanding just the most fucking dead-ass simple tropes.
He doesn't explain what BTA ever stands for.
I guess not, huh?
They keep calling this, it's like bionic transformer arm? I don't know.
Bionic terror arm for terrorists?
That's a good point. What the fuck could it mean?
Bad touch accessory, you know?
There you go.
That's the one.
I just love that in the same sentence, Sean Hannity gets a new power-up. He's like, and remember, G. Gordon Liddy's still cooler. Still way cool. He's bulletproof. He's a fucking fencer. He's got a cool motorcycle. Just remember that. Like, I know you're
He's
kind of
frugal.
the main character.
He has a coin purse. He gets you exact change every time.
And a fencing foil for
Yeah,
some
he's
reason.
got a fencing foil. I don't think he uses.
I
the
built you
villain
a
is-
cybernetic arm, but you're still no G. Gordon Liddy.
Yeah.
Don't sweat it.
Don't worry about that. So it's revealed that the villainous traitor Alan Colmes has become the king of all lib media, and he has breaking news. President Chelsea Clinton and Vice President Michael Moore are meeting with Ambassador bin Laden in the Oval Office, where they are currently letting him sit in the president's chair.
This is the future liberals wanted. They're like, let's let Osama bin Laden sit in the Oval Office.
Had to just be racking his brain for what's the worst possible thing they could do, and they would let him sit in the chair. That's such a liberal thing to do, sitting in the chair.
Michael Moore gave him permission.
Hannity sees this, and he turns to Oliver North and say, "Be glad you're blind."
Jesus Christ.
Which, Oliver North, I don't know that you should ever say that to a blind guy, even if it's something terrible. Because, he's not happy that he's
It
blind.
is.
Oliver North is...
It's kind of like the N-word for the sighted.
Oliver North throughout this whole comic is constantly being like, God, I wish I had my vision back. And at one point, Sean Hannity turns to him and goes, you should be happy you're blind. I'm really not, though. I'm really, I've made that very clear.
Yeah.
Just get Will Ferrell to play him and have him just wandering around. Be like, can I have some nanites, please? Please, can I have some of those wonderful nanites?
I'm sorry about Iran-Contra.
He brings them over to the new Strategic Defense Initiative, which is like a mobile battle van. That's the reveal to end this issue on.
I thought I had a bad issue. I thought, I must be missing some pages. But it just ended with him like, hey, look, here's maybe our van or something.
Yep.
Holy shit.
That was the end. Abrupt cut to the letters section, which is, as Brendan said, more of the same mostly. He mostly only gets hate mail and has no clever response to it. He publishes it and is just like, fuck you. And then, we're supposed to respect that. One thing I did take away is he thinks it takes 2 hours to read a comic book.
That doesn't seem accurate. But,
in one of these, he's like, well, reading this comic book, I guess you wasted 2 hours. And in another letter, somebody mentions that that Mike Mackey lives in a bizarro world, to which he replies, Libaro world? What a great idea. Got him.
Oh, damn.
You could see this got his gears turning. We'll get to Libaro world later.
I think, guys, I just now realized, that I think we probably shouldn't make fun of this guy. Is what I'm trying to say. This guy might have some problems that aren't, okay to make fun of.
No, this is all like every single right-wing media personality and aspiring one out there on YouTube, on TikTok, or whatever. They're all based on the fact that, yes, I'm right-wing, but I think you're all fucking idiots, and I'm going to fleece you for everything you're worth. And then they lose their goddamn minds when it doesn't work. He's exactly that. That's what happened here. So, issue 3. Vice President Michael Moore is leading Ambassador bin Laden on a tour of the White House from his rascal scooter. President Chelsea Clinton tells the maid to wash her son where bin Laden touched them.
Whoa, wait. The liberals are actually the real racists?
Ah, who would have thought, right?
Oh, man.
But they're such hypocrites. They don't even admit, at least the Republican would admit, like, I want you to wash my son after touching a Muslim. They got to do it behind closed doors. It turns out the UN needs too much money from the US, but we can't raise taxes on the rich because once the tax rate hit 90%, all of the rich people emigrated to Britain or Israel. And now we can't raise the funds we need by taxing the rich because we taxed the rich.
I feel like we are jumping into like page 86 of like a forum discussion about like tax incentives. Like this feels so deep into like a maniac's idea of what liberals want, but also clearly on the side of the rich. Like the author of this comic is just like, guys, we got to protect the rich.
I love that the argument is like, we can't raise the funds we need because we taxed the rich and they left. But you would be taxing the rich to raise those funds. So like, at no point does this logic, it's just a line. It's
How are we going to pay for anything if we don't claw back 90% of what we let somebody take 100% of? That's just basic economics.
So the evil UN has convinced the US to phase out the military, and they now laugh. The UN ambassador laughs because the US doesn't have enough of a military force to bargain with the UN, and he says, "You will make do with what the UN allows you to have." Imagine thinking this much of the UN. Like, even as bad guys thinking like, God, how powerful they are. Powerful and petty.
It's just incoherent. I don't understand what this man is afraid of. Like in his day-to-day life, it's so important to him, but it doesn't make any fucking sense.
I guess he's scared of the UN. I don't think nobody could be scared of the UN.
Well, I was going to say that there's a conspiracy that there's the one world government that is trying to take over. And this feels like 4% of that. Like this is clearly not that. This is just the regular UN as we know it. But they got like a little bit of military power. Now they're like, haha, we are evil with it. But he hasn't imagined it to a place where it would be scary, I guess is what's frustrating.
You're not frightened by this terrible future? Which only really seems to affect vocal conservative radio hosts?
It's looking at all the problems in the world and saying, stop making me face them. Let me just stay in this idea of what it was like when I was a kid. This entire book is flashback. And I cannot imagine being Reagan and finding out you're the one, only your Morpheus is Sean Hannity.
That's exactly what this is. Or at least it would have got to that if it hadn't been canceled by its creator after 3 issues. So Reagan McGee and his mom are watching TV, which tells them that bin Laden is set to apologize for the 9/11 misunderstanding. Again, exact words. They really thought he had something there. On the 20th anniversary at the Unity Tower, there's also a picture of Reagan at his computer where Mike Mackey, or perhaps Donnie Lynn, has misspelled the word patriot on his back. Thought that was a good touch.
Well, they defunded the education, so you can spell patriot whatever you're feeling, whatever feels right. But
maybe you're not allowed to spell it the right way.
Yeah, exactly. I think Mike kind of has a real career. Like, this is like the 3rd memorial we've seen him design, and they're all pretty great. Like, he keeps trying to satirize it, but like it's like a tree growing in a site of a disaster and a beam of light falling at either end of the country.
The Unity tree, he calls it. And there's a plaque on it that says like, "We hope this fruit feeds the victims of 9/11." And you're like, all right, maybe don't use the plaque.
Yeah. Are we at the part where the kid's in school and he gets really mad about learning about the UN and he runs to the principal and he like runs past a condom machine that's just like shooting condoms out of it? I thought
yeah, it's after he argues with a teacher in favor of conservative values when he's like 8 years old, and then runs past just gets like maximum overdrived by a condom machine. So in this nightmare future, a newspaper blows by reading, "Fox News bankrupt, Murdoch defies Coulter laws and loses, Soros to buy News Corp." And that happens right as Reagan McGee looks to the sky and screams, "No! No!"
Yes. It's such a weird placement. It feels like he's it feels like he's reacting to some corporate maneuvering.
I thought it was great world building. I was like, I am in the universe now. Condom machines, Fox News bankrupt. I understand this dystopia.
That 9-year-old really invested in like the corporate ownership of Fox News, as all 9-year-olds are. The news does a bit about how PETA has a patriotic eagle named Freedom, who's dying because his mate Glory died and now he won't eat his soy-flavored pseudo-rats. So PETA is going to put him to sleep.
No notes. This is good. This is the future liberals want. I took this as harsh criticism. I felt this one. I was like, as a person who wants to watch eagles starve, staring at soy pseudo-rats, I was like, God, they got me. They fucking got me.
And that's what liberals love, notoriously. They love PETA a lot and letting eagles die. They hate eagles.
They hate them.
They hate them. No, you don't get it. Freedom's gonna die.
Oh, shit. I get it. Freedom. The eagle's name is Freedom, and Freedom is going to die, but it means more than just the eagle. Oh, shit.
Real Americans like me, we only eat red meat, and, you're starving America from what it really needs. And also, DDT should not be regulated.
Yeah, I agree. Spread it around.
Okay, generously, I think maybe the metaphor was trying to say, like, freedom will die if you don't let it kill. I don't think that's a great metaphor. I don't think that's a great thing to endorse. That's just me.
No, it's a very, very fair way to interpret that.
This book's strong thesis is that your rights are not actually your rights unless you fight and kill for them, rather than that your rights must be defended from people that don't recognize that they're your rights. And I hate it so much, and I'm trying not to opine. I'm trying to tell jokes, but I hate it so much. I'm so happy to be on this podcast, and I'm so angry at this book.
Yeah, this is for you. This is for you, buddy. Only for you. This is your hole.
Thank you.
G. Gordon Liddy is at the gun range with his super hot, ethnically ambiguous teenage sniper girlfriend in her skin-tight one-piece with a cross between the tits.
Diana.
God.
Why does he love G. Gordon Liddy so much and have, like, Sean Hannity is almost not in the comic now. G. Gordon Liddy has taken it over. And he's just banging his way through the Al Gore regime.
Oh, maybe his girlfriend is Sean Hannity's wife.
I wouldn't put it past him.
He's cucking Sean Hannity.
She kind of looks like, if you're looking at the comic book and you remember back to young Sean Hannity before the bombing, she's kind of got Sean Hannity's face. So, like, I think maybe he's banging Sean Hannity.
Did she shoot his finger off? Is that what happened here?
Yeah, she shot it before we entered the scene to test his regenerative capabilities.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because that's where we realize that he's not bulletproof in like a I can dodge bullets way. He's literally like, he can regenerate as Wolverine because he has nanotechnology. He has cellular reconstruction abilities, they say. In this scene, he reports into Oscar, and they mention Annie the robot, who has robotic PMS.
So definitely Ann Coulter is my takeaway from this. This is the scene where they're like, we got to keep Ann Coulter on ice till we really need her because she is just like a murder bot. With
her robotic PMS, like just hate women straight throughout. Even when they're on your side, you're like, yeah, I'll give you a little guest spot. You're the defunct robot off screen with PMS. I'm sorry, robot PMS. So, you can't get mad.
Yeah. Why did I program my robot PMS at this level of intensity?
So G. Gordon Liddy says he doesn't want to go under for diagnostics because he had nightmares the last time, and he does this time. It's about having universal health care and how he couldn't save the lives of the vocal conservatives. Those are his terrible nightmares.
Well, I mean, why save anybody if the voice of America is silenced?
If it means having universal health care, like, that's not worth it. It's not worth the cost. G. Gordon Liddy visits Hannity in the hospital at the exact moment the only good Muslim decides he can bionic man him. Right then. The police bust in to arrest G. Gordon Liddy for discharging a gun in city limits, but it's probably really about how he murdered a Muslim teenager and nail-gunned pigskin to him.
Well, they're trying to get him without evidence because they're like, we found some blood, but no body, so we just assume you killed a nice Muslim boy.
Right.
But the bigger charge...
Don't they say that? Don't they say, like, hey, you're under arrest for, like, assaulting an innocent Muslim?
No, they say we suspect that what you're under arrest for is discharging a gun in city limits. That's the worst crime, even to the liberals. Back then, I think it's a pretty bad crime to nail gun pigskin to a Muslim teenager. I think that one's pretty rough. I think you could arrest him for that one.
Yeah, but like he was in a place where it's zoned for that. Like the you can't shoot off a gun there. That's the point.
You got to refer to the Section A, subclause 3 of the Second Amendment.
When did he shoot the gun? Is it the nail gun?
I think when they had the scimitar, he like got shot. He killed 2 guys that had scimitars.
Oh, you're right. The punchline was 2 bullets, and he wants his $1 back.
Yeah. Remember he
You're
shot
right.
the 4 bullets.
I can't believe I forgot about the classic
$1 worth of
catchphrase.
bullets.
I want my $1 back.
G. Gordon Liddy wouldn't have forgot about that $1.
So back in reality, back out of the flashback, Oscar announces that thanks to a glitch, G. Gordon Liddy has now become immortal. His healing powers have gone into overdrive. He no longer ages. His magical patriot blood can heal anything. It can probably heal Cyber Hannity and give Oliver North his eyes back, as well as fix the PMS robot somehow.
This fucking comic.
And he's sitting on this technology. He could be helping people with this, but he's just giving it to the worst people in America. And also, I would love to show this comic to today's MAGA red hats and be like, have you read this offensive anti-American comic where a Muslim immigrant is the savior of America? And let them get all mad about it before they flip through it. See how far they would just go on knee-jerk. I kind of ran away with that one.
I'm just so preoccupied with it. The solution to everything now, to blindness, to losing an arm, to fixing robots is just like using the awesome body of G. Gordon Liddy as like a host for experimental nanotechnology.
This is probably the most anyone's wanted to fuck G. Gordon Liddy.
Right? Like, if I was G. Gordon Liddy, I gotta say, it would work.
Absolutely.
Like, draw me on the motorcycle again, and yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This is the guy G. Gordon Liddy does try to sell. This is the persona. He's not wrong.
It's funny every time. So in Liddy's flashback, Oliver North is blindly driving him into the water. Like, as he's still blind, and he's driving, and he drives them right into the water, but it's okay. It happens to be the closed military base that houses their secret fish sub. Oh, you forgot they have a giant fish sub called the Manatee. Just wanted to say it again.
I did forget.
He meets Cyber Hannity for the first time, and Oscar explains Sean's body is now a merger of bionics, nanotechnology, and his own biosystem. His arm can even transmit radio signals at 25,000 watts. That's what he gets? G. Gordon Liddy is immortal? He's a fucking nanotech Dracula on a rad motorbike with he fences. He's banging your daughter, and you get a pirate radio arm?
Yeah, you get a jerk off machine with a fucking transmitter on it.
That fucking sucks, man.
Yeah, it sucks.
I would be so pissed off if I was Sean Hannity and I was on the cover of this and sold, and I read how much this guy fell in love with G. Gordon Liddy.
I love that he can't even be Snake Plissken in his comic about being Snake Plissken. He fails out of his own comic.
Incredible. So Oscar's up there. He's wondering if G. Gordon Liddy is having nightmares. And remember, this has been a flashback so far. So in this flashback, G. Gordon Liddy rolls over to a sexy dame asking him for another staff meeting. Only what? It's Hillary Clinton. And then G. Gordon Liddy wakes up screaming, saying, I thought I didn't know what fear was.
Speaking of torture, yeah. It's the constant Republican joke. It's just like, yeah, well, we don't want to fuck your women anyway. Like, okay, well, they have other value in society, but
that's a bold stance.
I'll also say that it was 100% flashback up to that point, so there's no reason to think that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like that was just something that happened we weren't privy to.
That's true. You can't switch from flashback to dream and act like we, the reader, are supposed to know what the fuck's happening.
I gotta take it as that's revisionist history. Oliver North asks Oscar to nanomagic his eyeballs back up, and he says, the best I can do is link somebody else's vision in. Which sounds like the opposite of helpful.
Yeah.
G. Gordon Liddy's a fucking motorcycle Dracula. Sean Hannity's like a cyborg radio electric karate man. Oliver North, best I can do is you can see out of somebody else's eyes. Not your own. I hope that helps you get to the bathroom. It might if they're already in your bathroom.
Here's what I can do. Best I can do for you. I can clone 2 tiny G. Gordon Liddys who live in your eye sockets and tell you where to go.
I would take
In a
that.
forceful, manly tone. Left.
So we repeat verbatim over the course of an entire page hey, remember, PETA, the eagle, named Freedom, it's dying because it won't eat soy rats. You remember that? Over a whole page. Repeat every step of that because Mike thinks that was so fucking cool what he did with that eagle being like named Freedom, but it actually is Freedom and dying because they won't feed it real rats. Like, yeah.
Well, in order for us to care about it as readers, we have to see it through G. Gordon Liddy's perspective. Because if it matters to him, then we understand it's important. And he's probably musing on the time that he is the only real person in this comic who actually conspired against democracy in the United States. So it's a very resonant moment for him to see freedom being put to death.
In a sinister high-rise office, we learned that nothing will stop the apology of bin Laden. And they also killed Matt Drudge and finally silenced the Drudge Report. Just like another off-screen death. Like, you gotta take it personally. The cooler G. Gordon Liddy gets, the worse the off-screen deaths must feel. And also, you thought there was one good Muslim? Turns out, no. Dr. Noor Ilham, who it turns out wasn't even grateful to be renamed Oscar Goldman after the Bionic Man TV show. He betrayed the last vocal conservatives to the U.S. government.
God
Not
damn.
even one. Not even one good one.
It's got to be a double cross. I mean, otherwise, why spend years building robot versions of them? It's not going to be a double cross, is it? It's not. Oh, man.
We'll never find out because 3 issues were all he had. Were all he had in him.
The only thing this story actually told was that there is no such thing as a good Muslim. At the end of it,
That's what we had.
everything's a loose thread except that.
Are you guys trying to set me up to do another comic where I finish this?
Oh shit, that's
No,
not a
please
bad
don't.
idea.
I'm gonna beg you not to. That's the end. This time there's no letters section. Like he's been defeated by his own arguments that he's publishing. It's just like abrupt end to the comic, to the series, and that reminds me of these 10 end puns from the
God
AI
damn it.
pun site
God damn it.
punsteria.com. What has keys but can't open locks? A piano until the end of the concert.
That one.
That one kept going. That stopped being a joke after it was a joke.
Oh, what
It
the
negated
fuck?
it. So it can open locks by the end of the concert? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, it makes
Like,
sense to me.
Sometimes the robot will just steal a pun, and it'll be a legible pun, because it just crawls the internet for a pun that matches whatever criteria, but then it will just tack on something afterward to be like, okay, well, this is about the end? Well, just put the end. So what did the janitor say when he jumped out of the closet? Supplies! But don't ask him at the end of his shift.
I liked that one I liked that one for a second.
Because if you ask him at the end of his shift, he's tired and he won't do it.
Yeah.
He won't do the bit.
He needs some nanites.
Why couldn't the bicycle find its way home? Because it lost its bearings in the end.
I'm starting to see the pattern. I think I've figured out how this robot's making these.
You might be surprised. Why did the Scarecrow become a successful neurosurgeon?
He wanted.
Come on, if you see the pattern, you might be able to get it.
He only had a brain, but he kept doing a joke.
Because he was outstanding in his field in the end.
Wait a minute. Bad puns?
Yeah, I should have got that.
Overwritten? Did you feed this AI my jokes?
Brennan, it's self-deprecation, but you would be a million times better than this trying to be terrible. Like, you could never come up with just putting till the end at the end of things. It would never occur.
It would never occur to me till the end.
Why don't we tell secrets on a farm? Because the potatoes have eyes and the corn has ears till the end.
Till the end.
Oh, that's ominous.
Why don't oysters donate to charity? Because they are shellfish until
Shellfish
the end.
Until the end.
Until the end.
Yeah.
Why was the computer cold? It left its windows open.
Until the end.
Until the end.
Shit, yeah.
How do you make a tissue dance? Put a little boogie in it. Until the end.
Oh my god.
It's starting to get really like apocalyptic cult, like until the end.
Yeah.
Until the end. Why was the calendar so popular? Because it had dates all year long. Until the end.
Now it just kind of makes sense. Hold on a second. That one just kind of makes sense.
I'm back on board.
I'm convinced that I'm right. It's an apocalyptic cult, because here's your last AI pun. Why did the tomato turn red? Because it saw the salad dressing and knew it was the end!
Einstein 100 Frankfurt. Einstein 100